All right, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, will no longer condone lawyers who frustrate the fight against corruption through frivolous applications.
Chairman of the Commission, Ibrahim Magu, made the assertion recently at a lecture organized by the National Association of Democratic Lawyers held in Lagos with the theme, The Role of Nigerian Lawyers in the Fight Against Corruption. Political correspondent Ayodele Ozubaku has details.
Since the creation of the Anti-Corruption Commission in 2003, it has prosecuted several political exposed persons, while many of these cases still lingers in courts due to the delay experienced in prosecution. Many others are allegedly frustrated by lawyers. Challenged by this worrisome trend, the National Association of Democratic Lawyers organized a lecture where stakeholders examined the role of lawyers in the fight against corruption. The EFCC chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, lamented the negative role of some lawyers he termed rogue elements in frustrating the fight against corruption.
The EFCC, under my watch, has had no choice than to challenge these certain senior lawyers, judges, and other judicial officers against who we have collected concrete evidence for preventing the cause of justice, for perverting the cause of justice. Today is a new dawn at the EFCC. We have resolved to call out anybody who is corrupt.
Human rights lawyers Femi Falano and Malaki Gomadu lamented that some judges continue to tolerate the dilatory tactics of lawyers rather than enforce the spirit of the law fully.
The case had to go on. In fact, it was almost unknown at that time to say to pay a lawyer to file a frivolous appeal and a motion for stay of proceeding in a way that you hang your case for 10 or 15 years. Some of the cases begun by the ICPC in the year 2000, 16 years ago, are still in the docket.
You take the members of the public, the first responsibility is to become conscious and sensitive, and then to live, to be alive to their responsibilities. And what are those responsibilities? To be able to identify issues around corruption and know precisely what to do with them.
The EFCC chairman maintained that the Anti-Graft Commission has no choice than to challenge senior lawyers who are perverting the cause of justice, saying EFCC would come to the aid of shortchanged Nigerians and intervene where there is impunity. Ayodele Ozubaku, TVC News.
Right, talking about the fight against corruption, EFCC certainly is the #1 agency that comes to mind in the heart of Nigerians, on the lips of Nigerians, as the case may be.
Indeed, and somebody is calling for a serious need. Well, he thinks that the EFCC does need reforms. Talking about the new NBA president, Abubakar Mahmoud. And of course, the EFCC has been responding and saying, let me even quote this, and this is really interesting. A bar populated or directed by people perceived to be rogues and vultures cannot play the role of priests in the temple of justice. And that's according to the EFCC. Very strong words.
Very strong words. We're joined now by a lawyer, Wahab Shitu, in our Abuja studio. Wahab, it's good to have you on TVC Breakfast right now. Now, first of all, Nigerians...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome. Now, in the minds of Nigerians, when the war against corruption started in the early 2000s, everyone was so happy at the dimension of the fight against corruption. But that vigor, that steam, that zeal seemed not to be the same as it is today. What is your overview with the fight against corruption, or the effectiveness of the EFCC barking and biting as far as the fight against corruption is concerned?
Well, I think I want to speak from the perspective of the available records and the available statistics. when we make public commentary like this, we should be guided by records and statistics. Before EFCC came on board, what was the position? Now, when EFCC emerged, what is the position? We all know the sterling performance of EFCC during the new Ribadu era, when corruption was fought, almost to a standstill. The same position was also replicated when some other chairmen came on board. But the fight against corruption has assumed a greater dimension now. It has to do with the moral authority and political, way displayed by the current administration. So you can see that EFCC is gaining momentum. The fight against corruption is now receiving a greater boost because of the character of the leadership and then the quality of the leadership of EFCC currently in charge. So I think if you look at the records, one thing you will confirm clearly is that EFCC has been able to secure more convictions than all the Ministry of Justice in the Federation put together, including the Federal Minister of Justice. I think those who want to make commentaries should be guided by records and statistics. You do not change a winning team. EFCC is performing. All we need to do is to give more cooperation to EFCC to enable it, the Ministry of Justice in the Federation put together, including the Federal Minister of Justice. I think those who want to make commentaries should be guided by records and statistics. You do not change a winning team. EFCC is performing. All we need to do is to give more cooperation to EFCC to enable it perform better than what it is doing by deploying more funds to assist EFCC to prosecute its assignment.
Okay, we'll definitely we will come to those things that the EFCC would require to even do a better job. Well, you seem to believe, or you do have accolades for the EFCC so far, but there are those who may disagree with you. People like the NBA chairman, who actually believes that there is a serious need for reforms, the EFCC, and then there's a general perception too that the EFCC is just used as some kind of bulldog, in the hands of the employers to pursue perceived enemies. I wonder if Wahab Shitu is still there. Okay, well, we will try to reestablish contact with them there. We're having some challenges with satellite there. Yes, Wahab Shitu seems to believe that the EFCC has given a good account of itself, looking far back at when Ribadu, the first chairman, of course, came on board, and the catchphrase then was the fear of Ribadu is the beginning of wisdom, or the fear of the EFCC in itself. In the midst of all of that, there was the argument or debate over, should individuals be strong or should we have strong institutions? And some people would say, look, it takes strong people to drive strong institutions and the other way around.
But the point there is, at the end of the day, the institution, the moment it is stronger than any individual, whoever comes in or steps into the leadership of such knows that it falls in line. There has to be a precedence. There has to be a foundation or a benchmark to which that. Now, one other issue of concern is the way the headship or the leadership of whoever is at the helm of affairs of EFCC goes out of office. Remember how Ribadu left office?
Unceremoniously.
We remember how Farida Waziri left office. We also remember how Ibrahim Lamode left office, and all of that. So all of these things call for concern. We're talking about building institutions in here. I guess EFCC, from what they have said, is an institution that's supposed to help build institutions as well.
Indeed.
It's an agency that's supposed to help.
You want to ask, what exactly is it about the EFCC that makes the leadership always vulnerable, so that when they seem to step on some toes, it's so easy to kick them out.
All right.
Yes.
Now let's bring some background information in here concerning what we are talking about. Now, EFCC is a law enforcement agency established to investigate and prosecute financial crimes like advance fee fraud, cyber fraud, counterfeiting, illegal charge transfers, credit card fraud, contract scam, money laundering, and other corruption charges.
Now, since inception in 2002, under former President Olusegun Obasanjo, with Ribadu, that's Nuhu Ribadu, as its pioneer chairman, the anti-graft body has successfully concluded only 8 high-profile cases. Ribadu was intrepid and gallant enough to fight corruption in the country squarely. The catchphrase, the fear of Ribadu is the beginning of wisdom, yes, you heard that earlier, soon registered on the lips of many Nigerians.
Now, in the course of his duty, it was reported that Ribadu was offered bribes to pervert the course of justice. Now, since Ribadu left the commission, the general perception is that his successors have made little or no effort to sustain his legacy and restore the past glory of the anti-graft agency.
Now, under their watch, high-profile cases were bungled and out-of-court settlements became the order of the day, as alleged treasury looters were more interested in fleecing their respective states by going into plea bargaining that was neither in the interest of their states nor their core aim of setting up the commission. Now, the inability of the commission to successfully prosecute high-profile cases under Farida Waziri is also worth talking about. For example, cases include the 17 billion naira police force insurance scam by former Inspector General of Police Tafa Balogun. Others are the failed conviction of Ayo Fayose of Ekiti before his re-election, failed conviction of Peter Odele of Rivers State, Joshua Dari of Plateau, Saminu Turaki of Jigawa, and Jolly Nyame Taraba, to mention but a few.
Those are really high-profile cases that Nigerians really like to see something or conclusion on those cases. And analysts have also said that the commission lost its public support and credibility, as it is now perceived as an instrument of the federal government used against perceived political opponents, thereby derailing the enviable track set by Ribadu. Now, since the coming of the current chair, Ibrahim Magu, the commission seemed to be returning to something akin to its Ribadu's era, where corrupt public office holders dreaded to perpetrate any financial crime.
Okay, very high-profile cases are taken up and dealt with under Magu's watch, even when some people have complained about the methods used in pursuing these cases. The Efcc has tried to reduce corruption rates in Nigeria through different measures adopted by the Commission. Although the agency has been faced with challenges like finance, political interference, corrupt officials, lack of reliable records, and slow judicial records. There have been recent calls for the EFCC to be reformed. Of course, that's the basis of our discussion this morning. Some have argued that it should be scrapped or merged with other anti-graft agencies like the ICPC.
Now, when it comes to the ICPC and the EFCC, in so many instances, if you go to the streets, for instance, you ask any Nigerian, what's the difference between EFCC and ICPC? And they'd be like, well, they fight corruption.
Indeed. And then you begin to wonder, are we overlapping the functions of these agencies? Are there one too many agencies fighting corruption in the first place? Yes, the EFCC was set up by, an act.
Yeah, they were all set up by acts.
Indeed,
but to the average Nigerian, the difference could be, or maybe the very glaring difference, the ICPC certainly would handle corrupt practices within the government system of maybe civil service and corporations and MDAs and so on, while the the EFCC will handle other areas.
I wonder if that really is the understanding of the average Nigerian.
That's what they perceive. That's how they break them into.
Many people actually see it as a difference between 6 and half a dozen. If you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So, okay, we have Wahab Shittu back on the line, thankfully so. Now, let's get your impression about this latest call by the new NBA president, who's calling for reforms, with the EFCC. As far as it's concerned, the EFCC cannot investigate and prosecute at the same time. He believes that, there should be a separate, special prosecution council to tackle the prosecution aspect of, the anti-corruption war. Where do you stand on this?
Well,
all right, we seem to have audio distortions in there from our Abuja studio. Now, we're coming back to the issue of fighting corruption. Now, a lot of people experts we have interviewed here and there over the years have said that the body language of the president determines how effective the EFCC becomes. And when you're talking about independent institution, now that's the reason why the perception, you were talking about the perception earlier on of the EFCC, and a lot of Nigerians feel, okay, fine, if the president, if they see his body language as to, okay, fine, he wants to really tackle corruption.
Okay, we actually hear that Wahab Shittu is reacting to my question earlier. Let's hear him then. Yes, Mr. Wahab Shittu, you were reacting to my question. Go ahead, please, with your response. If I can rephrase the question I asked earlier, the new NBA president is asking that the EFCC needs serious reforms. Take away the investigative aspect from the prosecutorial aspect, that one and the same agency cannot be doing both of these jobs. Okay, we hear he's gone again. We're just going to try as much as possible, so that we can have a smooth outing with Wahab Shittu this morning on the show, because this is a very, very, interesting topic. And what, cause for concern again, based on what I've been hearing some people say, that, look, it's not really in the place of the EFCC to actually begin to respond, to what the new NBA chairman is saying, that there's a need for reform. Is he saying that there's no need for reforms, and all of that? He seems to be speaking from both sides of the mouth, because on the one hand, he did say, yes, we do need reforms in the EFCC, but this call seems to be self-serving, the call on the part of the new NBA chairman, that it might just be an attempt to cover up or to protect a certain cabal from being actually prosecuted.
When you get to the media, anytime anyone goes to the media and you react or respond sometimes, and then you have some very strong emotional involvement. I'm not saying this is the case, but sometimes when words come out, they can be quoted in different contexts, as the case may be.
True.
Because the point there is that in the minds of Nigerians, like, we have always gone out to listen to the average Nigerian. What's your perception about this? What's your perception? What the people are saying is general perception. Sometimes it has to do with public opinion. Indeed. Sometimes they may not actually be right, but you won't blame them.
Don't forget,
if the agencies are not communicating or connecting with them, because they're supposed to be working on their behalf. When there's no connect, people are bound to have their own or form their own opinion or perception.
Okay, you know what? Let's even look at the whole budget padding issue that is still. Have we even forgotten about that?
No, we haven't forgotten.
But the EFCC has something to say about that one.
There are developments on that, seriously.
Indeed. Let's hear the EFCC talk about this or respond to it.
The 2016 budget padding scandal was blown open by the removal of the chairman of the House of Representatives Appropriation Committee, Honorable Abdulmumin Jubril. Honorable Jubril, in anger, began to level allegations bordering on connivance of the principal officers of the House. Since July, several allegations have been leveled against the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, and 9 other principal officers. Now, A civil society group called Conscience Nigeria is requesting for investigation of Honorable Yakubu Dogara and other principal officers mentioned in the 2016 budget pardon scandal. They took their protest to the zonal office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos.
Since the beginning of the 2016 Makaba dance budget is alarming and calls for question if truly we want this country to move forward or move backward. As taxpayers, we believe strongly that selected few, 10 of them, have been highlighted, have been mentioned to have been involved in the padding of 40 billion.
Since this issue started, a lot of persons have said there has been no petition against the perpetrators of the budget padding that happened in the National Assembly, particularly in the House of Reps. Today, we have come as registered members of registered organizations to present formally a written petition calling on the Economic and Financial Commission, EFCC, to sweep into action.
A protest letter was delivered to the representative of the commission. The Deputy Director of Operations of the Commission, Ilyasu Kwabai, used the medium to assure Nigerians that the 2016 budget pardon scandal would not be swept under the carpet.
When petitions are received, we look at them, make some analysis, commence investigation. We do what we call preliminary investigation without inviting the accused person first. We carry out some investigations, gather some facts to ascertain the truthfulness of that petition. Where we find them indicted, then we go into inviting the accused persons.
Nigerians expect the leadership of the House of Representatives to give full explanations about the 2016 budget pardon scandal when it resumes from break in mid-September. Ayodele Zubaku, TVC News, Lagos.
Yes.
Well, that report reflects what Nigerians are saying and how they're saying. If you've been listening to what Nigerians are saying and how they've been reacting concerning the budget padding scandal, if I have to put it that way, you know that Nigerians are really very angry.
Yes, and they're expressing it with this group of people who are saying that the EFCC should do their job of investigating the House of Reps. Don't forget, there is a perception, negative perception, a problem that the House is going through right now, and I wonder what it will take, to change that. All right, you're welcome back, and we're still talking the EFCC and the call for reforms of the anti-corruption agency. We've been trying to talk with Wahab Shitu via Skype not Skype actually, in our studio in Abuja, but we've had challenges with satellites. But we do have him back on the line, and well, thanks for your patience. Now let's hit this as quickly as we can. Back to the main issue, the call for reforms of the EFCC. Where do you stand? Mahmoud, Abubakar Mahmoud, the new NBA boss, believes that the EFCC should only investigate and not necessarily prosecute.
Well, let me first of all start by saying that I have tremendous respect for the person of the NBA president, whom I have known for over 3 decades, who used to be my boss in Kano way back. But in spite of my respect for him, I must disagree with him vehemently on the call for the reduction or the stripping of EFCC of prosecutorial powers for several reasons. The first point I want to make is that Mr. Mahmoud is expressing his personal opinion, for which he is entitled. That his opinion certainly does not reflect the opinion of the NBA, because this issue has not been put to any debate in order to elicit any consensus. again, I must say that the prosecutorial powers vested in EFCC is statutory. And so you cannot just by means of any cavalier suggestion indicate that the power that exists in the body statutorily to be taken away without any formal constitutional amendment. Secondly, everybody knows today that EFCC is so efficient and effective that the fear of EFCC is the beginning of wisdom. There are several anti-graft agencies in this country today. Apart from EFCC, we have ICPC, we have the Code of Conduct, but EFCC is the only one that has been so effective to the extent that people now see any invitation by EFCC as something to be dreaded. So the fear of EFCC is the beginning of wisdom. Thirdly, why do you say they should strip EFCC of prosecutorial power? Is EFCC the only anti-graft agency? Why should EFCC be the only focus? We have ICPC that is also vested with prosecutorial powers. Why are you not suggesting that ICPC should be stripped of its prosecutorial powers? NDLA is also vested with prosecutorial powers. Why are you not suggesting that NDLA be stripped of its prosecutorial powers? The customs is vested with prosecutorial powers. Why are you not suggesting that the customs be stripped of its prosecutorial powers? The police is vested with prosecutorial powers. Why are you not suggesting that the police be stripped of its prosecutorial powers? Why only EFCC? Again, what are the records? All these agencies I have mentioned, ICPC, NDLA, Custom, Police, including the Ministry of Justice of various states, including the Federal Ministry of Justice. If you put the records of convictions recorded by EFCC in the last 1 year of Magu administration, it surpasses the record of conviction of all the 36 Ministry of Justice put together, including the record of conviction of other anti-graft agencies. Which shows that EFCC is clearly in the lead in terms of performance. That suggestion by the NBA president overlooks the fact that EFCC has a full-blown chambers in-house. Not less than about 500 lawyers are employed by EFCC in-house. Experienced lawyers within EFCC who are daily, recording tremendous convictions on a daily basis. It is because
let me come in this way, Wahab. Yeah, Wahab. Yes, Wahab. Earlier you talked about the fact that the powers of the EFCC are statutory, which means it's backed by law, and whatever they're doing things according to the law. So we see the EFCC as an institution in the making, as the case may be. Now, there are concerns that the performance of the EFCC is based on the body language of the incumbent, whoever, the president, as the case may be, of the time. Now, that calls for a lot of concern among Nigerians. What do you have to say as regards that when it comes to building institutions that should last and stand the test of time?
Well, that we cannot take away. There's a lot of merit in that. That is why we must key into the vision of this new administration that has decided to change the narrative. The body language of the president of the country today is against corruption. The body language of the vice president today is against corruption. The body language of the current administration at the center is against corruption. The body language of the present chairman of EFCC, Ibrahim Mustafa Magu, is against corruption. So there's a new order now. And this is the time to encourage EFCC to perform optimally. I cannot deny the fact that in the previous administration, the body language may not have, been in favor of, the fight against corruption. But that narrative has changed now. Are we saying that EFCC should be stripped of its prosecutorial powers in a regime that is committed to the fight against corruption. So what you are saying is not something that is the fault of EFCC. I agree that EFCC is powerful to the extent that the ruling class allows it to be. But we now know that this president and this administration is not interfering in the affairs of EFCC.
All right, so based on what you just said, Mr. Wahab Shitu, if I may come in here, you would agree that the EFCC has come to symbolize the best and the worst of government's anti-corruption war, as it were, depending on which side of the divide you belong. Now, the claim by the EFCC boss that Mahmoud's call may not be unconnected with the recent, arraignment of some corrupt lawyers. And so that is why Mahmoud is coming up with this call. What do you make of it?
Well, I do not want to be seen as engaging in speculation or conjecture. And I do also have respect for, the trial process that the senior lawyers are passing through presently. So I would not want to comment on the merit or otherwise of the trial process in order not to prejudice the process.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Certainly, one is entitled to begin to suspect the motive behind the suggestion that you should change a winning team. When a team is winning, recording lures here and there, you change that team, you change a winning team. Why should anybody suggest that EFCC be stripped of its prosecutorial power at a time when EFCC is recording sterling performance under Ibrahim Magu? That is the suspicion. So those who are facing trial, the senior lawyers who are facing trials in court, are entitled to their day in court. I don't want to pronounce on the guilt or the innocence.
Okay, Mahmoud.
What I want to say,
just hold on, please. Let's quickly get this in. The new NBA chairman, in calling for these reforms, did not necessarily state exactly what kind of reforms he would want to recommend for the EFCC. But in your own thinking, and you have agreed, as well as, of course, Magu himself, the head of the EFCC, that, yes, there is a need for reforms. What kind of reforms do you think will make the EFCC perform its duty even more effectively?
Well, part of the reforms that I would recommend is that EFCC should be properly funded. In terms of funding, if you want to fight the war against corruption, you must be able to deploy absolute funds and resources to fight it. As it is now, EFCC does not have sufficient funds. So I'm calling on the presidency, I'm also calling on the National Assembly to appropriate more funds to EFCC to make it effective. Again, EFCC should be further strengthened in terms of capacity building. Most of the operatives must be exposed to internal and external training, locally and externally, to boost its capacity. Again, you need to do what I would call institutional strengthening of EFCC. For instance, the operatives must have access to equipment, to logistics, to state-of-the-art technology that will enhance the operations of EFCC. Beyond that, I think it's also important for EFCC to be granted autonomy to operate without interference from any quarter. Because if you want EFCC to be able to be effective and efficient, you must give it independence and autonomy. Again, the chairman of EFCC and all other operatives of EFCC must be able to work in an atmosphere devoid of any pressure.
All right, Wahab, thank you very much. Talking about autonomy for EFCC so they can perform without interference, in our minds, it seems to sound like there's some level of executive interferences in EFCC right away as it is. But certainly, we'll talk about this other times as we get along. Wahab Shitu, thank you very much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
It's my pleasure. Yes.
It's talk time now. Level of executive interferences in EFCC right away as it is. But certainly, we'll talk about this other times as we get along. Wahab Shitu, thank you very much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
It's my pleasure. Yes.